Hi guys, so as promised, this is the first in the videos that I'm going to be doing regarding mental health and my journey. So start at the start, always a good place. Um, and my first encounter with mental health was being diagnosed with clinical depression. Um, just in case you don't know, clinical depression is not, oh, I'm sad, I'm fed up, well, this isn't going right, that's not going right. Clinical depression is, in fact, a chemical imbalance in the brain, purely clinical. It's neurotransmitters, an imbalance in those, which are chemicals, basically, these neurotransmitters running between the cells. And it's known to be an imbalance in mainly serotonin, but there's a couple of other chemicals in there as well. Normally controlled or treated with medication. Um, the trouble with the medication is because it's an imbalance, it changes on a regular basis. So sometimes it's low, sometimes it's high, sometimes more of one than another, and that affects your moods in different ways. Um, so your medication, once they manage to find a balance, gives you a base level to stop you dropping into the real dark depths. Um, but it doesn't keep it balanced. It doesn't make you feel 100% normal. It's not just something that just goes right again. It's not the way it is. Um, so it does help you work on a level just to stop you dropping really, really deep. But your mood swings are massive because one minute you're down at the bottom level, the next minute you can be over the top. For me, particularly, stressful situations make me really, really frustrated, make me really, really angry. I can go from calm to raging bear in seconds. The silliest little things can spark and push you over the edge if you're tired or whatever. That just compounds the whole situation, really. I've got 6-year-old twins. My little girl particularly can be challenging at times. She reads emotions really, really well. And my little girl knows if daddy's on the edge. And bless her, she does love to poke the bear. Um, so, yeah, she really knows how to push my buttons and send daddy over the edge. And she thinks it's highly funny because my partner's brilliant at spotting the signs, spotting when I'm getting there, and normally she will ask me to do something or do something that distracts me from the situation. But if she's not around, my little girl's really, really good. Like I say, she does like to poke the bear. She thinks it's funny because it's daddy who normally gets sent away. um, but yeah, so it's not the worst of the conditions that I suffer with, but it can be very, very difficult. Sometimes I can feel it coming and I can take myself out of the situation. Sometimes it comes from nowhere. The real key to dealing with the clinical depression is trying to get the positives around all mental health. It's all about training your brain. Um, your brain naturally looks for the negatives. It deals with the bad stuff in life first, basically. Um, so the key to mental health is trying to train your brain to focus on the positives. If you try and ignore something, push it to one side, your brain knows that you haven't dealt with it and it will keep bringing it back in. So those intrusive thoughts will always return until you take the time and trouble to actually deal with it. A little coping mechanism for me, if I've got stuff that's reoccurring, that's in my head, that's being a bit of a bother, is to write it down. If you write it down, read it back, your brain accepts that you are dealing with it. You can then put it to one side and revisit it at maybe a quieter time in an evening over a cup of coffee or something, have a read through it, and work through whatever that was being intrusive to you. If you don't revisit it, your brain will throw it back in again and say, look, you've put this to one side. you obviously haven't dealt with it yet. We need to look at this. But if you write it down, read it, put it to one side, your brain normally accepts that for now, you've done something with it, and it tends to leave you alone for a little bit. So then you can concentrate back on what you're doing, focus on something else, something more positive. I found it works for me. Some people find the regression technique, which is basically sort of pause and try and take yourself back to the point before you started to react, and then check yourself from there. Some people find that really effective. I find that a little difficult to do, because once my frustrations and that kick in, I get very bloody minded over it, so I get very focused, and I can't actually switch that off and sort of backtrack. But I do find that if I know something's coming in, or I've got something in my head, then the best way to deal with it is sort of accept that it's there, let your brain know you know it's there, and then sort of deal with it at a later date. It seems to work for me. But yeah, it can hit you at any time. It's disconcerting at best. The kids are just being kids, so it's not their fault. It's purely my issue. It also developed into a little bit of OCD for me. I'm not an OCD person, I'm not a neat freak, but when this is particularly kicking in, I can't deal with mess. If I walk in to a room and the kids are playing, particularly if it's messy play, I tend to walk back out, really. My partner tends to do that sort of stuff. She was a nursery nurse anyway, but I tend to keep myself distance to that, because it just frustrates the hell out of me, and they're only being kids, they're only making memories and having fun and whatever. So I'm aware of that, but it doesn't make it any easier. I don't have control of those sort of surges of feelings and frustration, and unfortunately it's the people around you that tend to suffer as a result. It's them you get frustrated with, it's them you get angry with. Doesn't tend to happen so much out in public, but at home it really sort of manifests itself, I think, because maybe at home you're not you're relaxed, you're not focusing on other stuff so much. I don't know to be sure, but I do know that for me, being at home is when it sort of manifests itself to the greatest degree. I'm not saying it doesn't happen anywhere else, but that's normally where, if I'm going to explode, it's normally at home. So yeah, that's where that one sits. It's I was diagnosed with it. I was driving, actually, and I had these massive chest pains. I had to stop, I couldn't drive anymore. I rang the doctors and went there and was sent by ambulance to the hospital. Thought I was having a heart attack, but it wasn't. It was stress and anxiety and this big blow up. And it was then that they realised that I had actually got this imbalance, this chemical imbalance. And so I started to get on the medication. It takes a little while to run, in 6 or 8 weeks. So yeah, it leaves you in a bit of a lousy place, to be honest. But at the moment, I can handle this one pretty well. Like I say, it does come surges, but I'm normally on a scale of sort of 1 to 10, maybe 6 or 7 on the medication is where I sit, as a general rule of thumb. And then it just goes from there, depending on circumstances and situations that are around me. So I hope that's been a little bit of use for you. It just sort of explains, really, it's not clinical. Depression is different from depression. Like I say, it is purely clinical. There's nothing you can do about it. It's not about being sad and miserable and whatever. It's purely this imbalance in your brain that deals with the emotional side of you. So your feelings and your thoughts and those anguishes, the base instincts, if you like, what they call your ID. But I'll explain that more in another video later on. without getting too technical today. But yeah, it's part of your makeup, and it affects massively those mood swings and that sort of thing. It's you know, it's I suppose it's the closest you can sort of relate as a bloke to being a woman at that time of month. Those emotional swings and roundabouts. So yeah, it gives you that in touch with your feminine side, as it were, I suppose. But yeah, it's not the greatest, but it's not the worst either. And within reason, there's a certain level of control with it. But we'll leave it there. I'll be back shortly. I shall move on to the next subject in my list of experiences, and how I got there as well. Like I say, this one just came on. It's a clinical thing, not a cause as such. But yeah, I must just say that some of the videos may get a little heavy at times. It's all part of the therapy for me, and hopefully an insight to you. There may be tears, there may be some laughter. So yeah, as I sort of lay myself bare, I mean, I don't mean get naked. I don't want to scare you. I want to try and help you. So we'll see what happens. But like, share, subscribe to it, then you won't miss the next lot. I will keep putting little reminders out that I've done them. But if you want to jump on and follow the journey, that's fine. If you want to drop me any comments or anything, want to ask me any questions, you can either PM me on Facebook or message me on the videos, and I get that as well. So I'll leave that with you guys. Stay safe, and I'll speak to you all soon. Look after yourselves, enjoy what's left of the weekend. Hopefully the weather will improve a bit. It's not very good at the moment, is it? And I'll catch you for the next one. Cheers.